we ready? All right. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Scott Borbom, spelled Scottboerboom. I serve as the Chief of Police for the City of Minnetonka and as President of the Hennepin County Chiefs of Police Association. Our association is made up of 34 police chiefs and the sheriff, serving 45 communities and more than 1.3 million residents, over 800,000 of whom live outside the city of Minneapolis. We are here today because of the Hennepin County Attorney's Office harmful announcement this week to no longer prosecute felony charges that come from low-level traffic stops. This one-size-fits-all policy will have serious consequences for policing and for public safety across our county. As an association, we are not often in front of the cameras. Most of the time, we are working behind the scenes, collaboratively with local leaders, supporting our officers, and making sure we deliver on our mission to serve and protect. But this new directive is deeply troubling, and we felt we had no choice but to speak out today. When we take the oath to become police officers, we swear to serve, to protect, and to uphold the laws of the state of Minnesota. We do not pick and choose which laws to enforce, yet this decision by the county attorney does exactly that, putting us in an impossible position and making it harder for us to do our jobs. The decision also fails to recognize that each community in Hennepin County is different. The people of Minnetonka have very different needs from the people of Minneapolis, Medina, Bloomington, or Rogers. Yet this policy paints every community with the same broad brush. It was made without consultation, without collaboration, and without respect for those of us who serve these residents every day. This lack of transparency and communication is part of a larger ongoing problem. Just 2 weeks ago, at a public meeting, we asked the county attorney's office if they were developing this policy. We were told there were no updates. We stressed then, and we stress today, the importance of working together, of communicating openly, and of ensuring that the voices of law enforcement and our communities are included in these discussions. Once again, we were ignored. Public safety policy should never be made in a vacuum. These decisions directly impact the work of our departments and the safety of our residents. Community expectations differ from city to city. They deserve a voice in these decisions. This one-size-fits-all policy denies them that voice. Decisions of this magnitude should either be left to individual cities so each community can decide what works best for their residents, or taken up with the state of Minnesota through the legislative process. What should never happen is a sweeping policy dictated unilaterally by the county attorney without input from those most affected. We stand here today because we owe it to the people we serve to speak out against policies that weaken public safety, limit accountability, and create confusion across the county. Our commitment is and always will be to the residents of Hennepin County. I thank you for all being here, and at this time I'd like to introduce Sheriff Dewana Witt.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Dewana Witt, last name spelled W-I-T-T. I'm the Sheriff of Hennepin County. This morning we are here to talk about the Hennepin County's decision not to prosecute felony cases that stem from low-level traffic stops. Lawful traffic stops are routinely led to the removal of illegally possessed guns, narcotics, and other serious threats from our streets. Again, lawful traffic stops. Just this year, our deputies and detectives have seized 377 illegally possessed guns. Nearly half, 47%, of those illegally possessed guns we've confiscated are from traffic stops. That's 175 guns just this year that were found during traffic stops. In May, our deputies made a traffic stop for a illegal window tint in Minneapolis. The two occupants were wearing ski masks and gloves. A 9mm handgun that was modified to be fully automatic was found during that traffic stop. Through our investigation, we learned the firearm was connected to a shooting in Minneapolis and a homicide in Robbinsdale. Last May, our deputies made a stop for window tint and no license plate displayed. During that stop, they found a female passenger had visible injuries consistent with being assaulted. She had been stabbed by the driver and told that he was searching for a place to kill her. That victim credits law enforcement for saving her life that day from a traffic stop. I want to point out the page of Wednesday Star Tribune headline, 12 shot in Minneapolis in the span of 12 hours. With that amount of violence our area has endured over the last few months, now is not the time to lower the standards for public safety. The county attorney already has discretion in charging decisions, but a blanket refusal to prosecute felonies uncovered during these stops is a reckless overreach. This policy will embolden criminals. We see it every day in traffic stops where people who are committing criminal activities in our communities say, we're not supposed to chase them. We're not supposed to pull them over. The criminals are paying attention, people. It will worsen the Hennepin County's already serious accountability problem, and it will put more lives at risk. At a minimum, these stops offer an opportunity to educate drivers about the law. When they do result in the seizure of illegal guns and contraband, it serves as crime prevention tool as well. Once again, the county attorney is prioritizing offenders over public safety. This policy will only create more victims, further harming all the residents of Hennepin County, and particularly those communities already suffering from some of the most unchecked crimes, unchecked violent crimes. There are laws in place for a reason. I have been pushing for lawmakers to make new laws to help prevent the violence that we have seen in our streets. That work is undermined if we refuse to prosecute existing statutes. If the county attorney doesn't agree with the law, she's also welcome to go to the legislature to try to change that. In the meantime, there may be a new policy, but that does not deter us from the work we do on the street every single day, the work that our Minnesota statutes allow us to do. In the meantime, with that policy, rest assured that the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office will continue to act under the law. Our deputies will continue to operate within the law, making lawful stops and lawful arrests, seizing illegal possessed guns, drugs, and other illegal matters that will cause harm to our communities in Hennepin County. We will continue to prioritize the safety of those we took an oath to protect and serve. With that being said, I'd like to invite Plymouth Chief McFadden up to the podium. Sorry, excuse me.
Thank you, Sheriff. Good morning. My name is Eric Fadden, spelled E-R-I-K, last name spelled F-A-D-D-E-N. I am the Public Safety Director for the City of Plymouth. I want to take just a few moments to highlight some of the great, outstanding work that our police officers do on a daily basis. Our officers enforce laws that are in place on the statute books and conduct outstanding police work and that is what our residents expect. In a time that we're talking so much about gun violence, I think that it's important to highlight just a couple recent examples of the great work that our officers are doing throughout Hennepin County, not just in the city of Plymouth. Year to date, in the city of Plymouth, our officers have recovered 22 guns. Some of them are from lower level traffic stops. Two recent examples. Just a week ago today, last Friday, one of our officers stopped a vehicle for illegal window tint. The officer, during the traffic stop, observed a firearm in the vehicle, and when they notified the driver of that vehicle that they saw the weapon, the driver fled. They were later located and were found to be a convicted felon and a person prohibited from carrying a firearm. Just 28 minutes after that traffic stop and fleeing occurred in our city, another officer stopped a different vehicle for illegal window tint. That vehicle fled from the officer and they never stopped. We later located that vehicle and learned that just hours before, that vehicle was involved in a homicide in another state and was coming to the state of Minnesota presumably to flee from that crime. Those are just two examples. Now I'd like to turn it over to New Hope Chief Tim Hoyt.
Good morning. My name is Tim Hoyt, Timhoyt. I'm the Chief of Police for the City of New Hope. I asked my staff to take the policy that was given to us that didn't work with us with Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty. I took this policy, gave it to my staff, and I told them to pick a couple of months and look at some of the laws that are in place and find out if we've had anything resembling what she wants to stop in any of our cities and tie it back to some crimes in the city of New Hope. One in particular, a victim from the city of Minneapolis reported to the Minneapolis Police Department within the past year that she is having an argument with her boyfriend. In quotes from the Minneapolis Police Department report, she said she tried to open a passenger door and get out. The person, her boyfriend, exited the driver's side and produced a black semi-automatic 9mm handgun and fired it at her leg. The victim said the shot missed her. The bullet was so close to striking her leg that she felt the blast of the gunfire. She could actually feel the bullet going by her. It didn't stop there. She said she tried getting out again, and her boyfriend grabbed her and fired a round at her head, just barely missing her. The Minneapolis Police Department took the report. They did everything correctly. They put an alert out to all of our agencies. 6 days later, one of my officers saw a vehicle traveling through our city with an obscured license plate. He notified the neighboring agency, which is the Crystal Police Department. The officers worked together. They ended up trying to stop the vehicle, and the vehicle ended up fleeing and crashing. The New Hope Police Department and Crystal police officers took the person into custody safely. It happened to be this male subject that had just assaulted 6 days prior his girlfriend. He was arrested for possession of a firearm, prohibited person in possession of a firearm with an altered serial number, and that domestic incident. Without making that traffic stop and our officers being diligent in looking at these violations, this would have never happened, and that person would have never been brought to justice. We're just asking that the Hennepin County Attorney at least ask us and get our input, which she did not do for this policy. I'd like to turn it over to the Sheriff.
This time we'll open up to questions to the press.
So one thing that the office had said, I think earlier this week, is that they would be open to taking any input from the department. Would you be willing to, or will departments be sending things they want to change, or is it more just you don't want this policy at all? What's your response to them wanting input?
Yeah, if you didn't hear the question, there was an invite to continue discussion about this policy. Absolutely. I think our community expects us to work side by side, all of our public safety partners, including the County Attorney's Office, and we do on a variety of other issues. I think we are here today because we were all caught off guard. This happened on Wednesday, and as the president of the association, I was notified 2 minutes prior to it being public. So we're all answering questions from our officers about what's next, what can we do, what can't we do. We have community members that are asking us the same questions. Again, we're a very diverse county. We have 45 communities, 35 chiefs. I respect any decision by a chief to implement any change in their city. All we are asking for, and we should have been invited to the table and had a conversation about how this affects our communities. And maybe it could have been adjusted in a certain way. I don't know, but we're here today because it was already made public and we had no opportunity to be a part of that.
Chief, how frustrating is that? Because what you're saying now is it's been set in motion without any feedback from all of you, and now you have to go back and look at it and try and offer that feedback after the fact. How frustrating is that? Do you feel like you could have worked with this ahead of time, had known it right away, and maybe you could help this?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think any one of the 35 chiefs would sit down and work to remedy whatever outcome we're trying to remedy. I mean, we're all in the same business of public safety. And again, we work side by side, the county attorney's office, on a variety of issues, and we've got liaisons on different topics. It's just interesting that on this topic, we weren't included in the discussion. We've asked about it, and 2 weeks ago we were reminded that nothing's been decided, it's still in progress, and then all of a sudden 2 weeks later it's finalized in public. So obviously you see how it catches all of us off guard.
You all talk to your counterparts in Ramsey County law enforcement about how they're running with a similar policy for the last 4 years?
We're aware of the decisions and the policy in Ramsey County. I mean, we're Hennepin County, we're different. I believe they were involved in the process. There's a little bit of nuances in the way the policy is written. And when you bring the chiefs into the, engage the chiefs before, that gives us the opportunity. We may all agree to disagree on the outcome, but I think just hearing from the chiefs is what we're asking for. We have community members that then demand answers from us, and so I think we owe it to our residents. Again, you have 45 communities. I'm not sure how many are in Ramsey County. You may want to go back and ask them, what their position is on it. But again, I respect any community or any chief that makes a decision. That's not what we're saying here. We're just saying we need to be engaged in these types of policy decisions that broadly affect all of us. And we border some counties that don't implement this, so we create confusion. We have a road that we travel on with Carver County. And so we have different rules depending on what agency you are. So we talk about confusion, that's confusion.
With the confusion point, on Wednesday Moriarty was citing data, I think from 2017 or 2018 from MPD, saying 99.5% of the times no contraband is found. So can you respond to that? Because clearly you're saying something different with your examples.
Absolutely. And I'm going to speak personally for myself. I started 30 years ago in an agency about 9,000. And we were directed at times to go into an area to do quality of life enforcement. So the officers were directed to saturate areas, very urban areas, and stop anybody for anything. And we would come up with nothing often. But again, this may work for certain cities depending on their environment. But in our cities, we utilize some of these tools a little bit more specifically, and so there's a difference in how they're being utilized in the training. And so I would say again, we are very diverse communities, and we serve different communities, and so it may work again for certain cities, big cities, but it isn't just for all of us.
Chief, can I add to that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd like to say, though, too, is that just because there's a traffic stop doesn't constitute that there will be a search of a vehicle. I believe that it was alluded to that people are misled as to if they can deny doing a voluntary vehicle search. I think it's important to know that good law enforcement work, there's something that often else is involved before there's a search that is asked for. It is reckless to say that just because we pull a vehicle over, that constitutes or that means that we're going to ask somebody to search their vehicle. There's usually some kind of other reasonable suspicion that would lead to something like that.
I have another question for you, Sheriff. It got a little bit noisy, so I missed your number. I think you said 377 illegal guns were recovered, and then did you say 175 post-traffic stops?
Yes. So for those stats again, just this year, we seized 377 illegally possessed guns. Nearly half, 47% of those guns were from traffic stops. 175 guns just this year have been found during traffic stops.
The attorney's office cited a big reason why they made this decision was because they felt these practices targeted black and brown drivers. If folks were involved in this conversation, if you were involved in this conversation, what would that conversation look like in regards to asking?
Well, I think it's important to acknowledge, racial discrimination and racial profiling. I will say, yes, those things do exist. But you need to deal with the problem, the people who are not doing their jobs appropriately, instead of making these blanket rules or policies that limit law enforcement from using the tools that we have to keep our community safe. And with that being said, again, I think acknowledging is important. but you also have to deal with the people that are the problems. It's not the practice that's the problem. It's when people take those, take that authority they have and use it wrong, which I want to say is not something that is so widespread as it was alluded to as well. That is not typically what is happening. But to say that it absolutely never happens, I won't dare say that. I know that I've actually experienced that. So let us deal with the problems. We all have policies in place. We all have the cultures that we're trying to build within our agencies, and trust that your law enforcement leaders will deal with things when they're out of line with what our culture and what our policies or the law is. That's what we do.
Has there been any contact with the county attorney since Wednesday?
Not from me, no, not from any of us.
Can I just ask, I'm not media, but we're talking about guns. We're not talking about the amount of drugs that are also being recovered on these traffic stops. We have an epidemic, especially in Minneapolis, and I'm sure in all of your areas. Can we talk just a little bit about drugs?
Well, we had a little bit of a conversation about that today, about what is it that we're actually tracking, and acknowledging that maybe we should be doing more to track certain things like that. But when we talk about fentanyl in our communities and just that small, minute amount, it is not uncommon to find deadly drugs such as fentanyl during these traffic stops as well. I apologize, we don't have those numbers today, but just know that it is common. Where there's drugs, there's often guns. And, people usually use the mode of transportation, their vehicles, to do that. I want to reiterate, though, that we are doing good work in Hennepin County. All of our chiefs, sheriffs, everybody, we're doing really good work. And we need people to focus on that, and if given a story, they need the full story. We understand what some of the concerns are, and I want to say the study that was used in 2017 during that press conference, well, I can guarantee you that what we're dealing with in 2025 is not what we were dealing with in 2017. So we need to play catch up here on all parts and making sure that we're telling the full story. And oftentimes the stories where these things are going right, which is getting dangerous people, dangerous weapons, dangerous drugs off of our streets and out of our communities. I believe that is the common goal that everybody wants, no matter where you land on this conversation.
And just anything more on just how often these any pretextual kinds of traffic stops will lead to charges of more serious things, and kind of just percentage-wise, how often those are leading to something?
Well, I would say that, something that's not always public is the declination letters that we get, but that would be a very interesting statistic to look at as well. When I think about our deputies' frustration about seeing some of the same people over and over again, that's a real thing. But as I said before, accountability in Hennepin County is a real serious issue right now. When we're talking about wanting to prevent bad things from happening, wanting to prevent further shootings, we need the support to have the tools that we need to get those bad actors out of our communities. Frankly, it doesn't matter what race you are. We're looking for people who are committing these violent acts in our communities that are scaring our children, that are scaring our elderly. And to have those tools taken away to protect the people who are committing those acts is absolutely just the wrong thing to do. Yes, I do. Thank you for that reminder. Here goes another stat. So here, so our communication center does not dispatch for all of Hennepin County, but here's some stats for the agencies that we do dispatch for, the cities that we do dispatch for. This is for traffic stops only, I want to say that, but year to date, there have been 93,223 total traffic stops. Of those, 62,602 were verbal warnings. That's 67%. So again, not every traffic stop results in a citation or bad interactions or bad interactions with police. We are educating people. We are telling people what is going on. And if they have a headlight out, tail light out, that is a safety issue, and they should be informed about that. But of that, 18,671 were cleared without reports. 624 of those led to arrest. That's less than 1%. So let's think about that. If we want to throw data in and we want to talk about numbers, let's use all the data. Let's use all the numbers, not just the ones that contribute to whatever point we're trying to make by getting rid of tools that law enforcement need to do our jobs and to keep our communities safe.
Yeah, do you think will most departments just continue to operate how they have been, just to make these searches to stop dangerous,
You know, like I mentioned before, we respect decisions by local communities and chiefs. I have heard for the most part, absolutely. And I'll point out, we're talking about guns and drugs, and we have folks that are in small communities. Our furthest west community is about 2,500. It's really rural area. It's not well illuminated, and we look at headlights or window tint or inoperable windshield wipers. We have a lot of pedestrians are on our roadways. We have bicycles, and now we're creating an environment where in dimly lit areas of our county, we're allowing people to drive. They can't see. We're seeing window tint now on the front windshield. It's to the point where we're going to see an increase in pedestrian fatalities, injuries, and in our communities out west, we have a lot of folks that are on the roadway on bicycles. So we talk a lot about drugs and guns, which is affecting all of us, but again, we are a very diverse county, and we all have different needs and expectations. I just want to point that out, but I've been told for the most part, they're not going to change, but again, we respect any decision by any local chief or their city.
Is there any consideration of using the U.S. Attorney's Office when the crime is applicable, a felon in possession or something like that?
You know, we have not discussed that. Again, we got caught off guard on Wednesday, and we're just trying to get our voice out. We're an association, but we don't typically come before the cameras. We felt the need to do this, but that is an option. I don't know what that would look like, but certainly we'll evaluate all opportunities that we have.